Welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today we have one of my old teammates and friends. He is a black belt under Peter DeBean. He is OG as they come, and we are looking forward to getting to know him a little bit more. So thanks very much for joining us, Paul Leahy. Did I say that right?
That's good enough.
Leahy.
All the worst have been called, so yeah, Leahy. That's the one. Got it the second time.
Awesome, man. So how long ago was it that you guys were training together down at DeBean's? Was that
10 years, at least 10 years ago. Yeah.
When did you come in, Kim? 2004, 2005?
Oh, no. I started 2009 and I joined Absolute in 2014. So yeah, it's been pretty much 10 years since
flies by. Goes way too.
Yeah. So
okay?
Paul was always down the other end. He was always like, because Paul's a big unit and he's a black belt and he's really scary. So yeah, I don't think Paul and I actually rolled too much
for anyone to walk into back then. So
yeah, DeBean's was pretty
regardless of your ability.
Yeah, it was just a constant shark tank back then, right?
It certainly was.
Are you still at DeBean's now or not? Is that?
Well, I'm under an affiliate with. I'm nothing official. I train down at Bayside Jiu Jitsu because I live down. We've lived in Bayside for the last, 18 years. So when Bayside opened up in 2016. It was a good opportunity to go down there and sort of help Polly out with a few lessons early on. Pete Polygenis, that is.
Oh, yeah.
But I was at Peter DeBean's I'd started in 2002 and was there all the way up until 2016. And then, when Bayside opened up, it was just a lot more convenient and suited my training at that period of time. So it was good to get down there and have something a bit closer rather than travelling to and from St Kilda every, 4 times a week, 5 times a week.
Yeah. Kim, do you mind?
2002. Sorry, go on, Andrew.
No. Well, I just had I was kind of leading to something here because, I have friends, including Kim, who've trained at DeBean's, and they talk about in the past how when gradings happen there, you don't know. You're just going to get a belt someday, and there's not even really structured classes about a technique. You go there and you work on stuff, and people at that club are very good. Okay, don't get me wrong, they're very good, but it's not like, I don't know, an Absolute where there's a curriculum and you follow that.
Yep.
With an affiliate of a DeBean club, is it first of all, is DeBean still the same nowadays? I don't know. But second of all, are the affiliates of DeBean the same thing? You go there, there's no really structured class, you all maul each other, and then you occasionally get a belt. Does an affiliate have the same formula?
Good question, and very good question. No, it's not the same from what I understand. I definitely know training on an affiliate. I imagine, sort of as an outsider speaking about it or a student speaking about it, Pete DeBean probably doesn't set a syllabus for his clubs. Mm-hmm. You come in under the banner, he offers his services, and I guess his tutelage instructions probably more so to the instructor than the students. But definitely, I think you're free to run your club as you see fit. And with Pete Polygenis, where I'm now at Bayside, it's way more structured. Classes start on time, to set warm up, set drills, and then just free training. Whereas Peter DeBean's has gone that way now because I think you reach a point with all jiu-jitsu schools where you've got to make a business out of it. Mm. Probably back in the early day, it was as much of a hobby for Peter DeBean as it was establishing a club. So there were no real written rules. His experience was from training at Gracie Barra in the early days in Brazil. So it was definitely not free for all, but it was probably quite hard for some people to walk into that environment and not have a syllabus in place or set drills, and then just all of a sudden be thrown in the deep end and have to train, fight for your life almost as a white belt. It was very much like that, but it was good. Well,
Yeah.
good. I look, some very fond memories of it, but it certainly wasn't for everyone. And I know now, even just looking at the timetable at Pete Devine in St Kilda, it looks very structured. I still don't know if there's a belt syllabus in place. I don't think there is. I think you still just get thrown your belt.
Yeah.
I've always believed that's the way to do it because that's my background. That's how it was done, and you don't expect it. It's when it does happen, it's very exciting. So yeah, there's definitely, from what I've seen, probably as a business model, that's been the way a lot of clubs go, and I think Pete's sort of driving that model as well himself. Pete Polygenis certainly has that model in place, although he doesn't have gradings either. He has stripes for the kids, but it's time on the mat. When you're ready to get your belt, you get your belt. So he'll, like all those sorts of guys that run their club, like, they'll just keep an eye on what's going on with the students and how they're rolling against the higher belts and make a call from there. So it's horses for courses. Some people like the structure, some don't. So
yeah. Love it.
So you said that you started in 2002, so it's like 22 years now, thereabouts, that you've been doing it. So tell us about what it was like then at the beginning, and also like how you found jiu-jitsu. So you would have been one of the early adopters by the sound of it.
Yeah, there was a few guys before me. It was funny, there weren't too many black belts. There was certainly some guys training. I'd been on a period of hiatus up the east coast of Australia, just surfing and generally not doing much between jobs. Came back, I'd put on a bit of weight and I was enjoying the good life a bit too much, and I didn't have anywhere to live. So I ended up staying at a very good friend's house, and he had a bungalow out the back. And he took off over to Europe, so I stayed on. And he had a box of old surf DVDs and other DVDs that I won't make mention of. And in there was a couple of like very early UFCs. You had UFC 1 and 2, no, UFC 2. And I literally just wore that thing out. I couldn't believe I wasn't a fighter. I'd say I wasn't a fighter. I couldn't fight. I had no training. I'd done a couple of years of Taekwondo. The only fights I'd probably ever been in, I'd probably just asked for the beating I got. And being a big bloke, I just looked at this small bloke annihilate these people. UFC 2 that was, and I couldn't believe it. So literally pulled out the phone book, Yellow Pages back then. And I think there was only three clubs listed. At that time, I think it was Hangar 4 maybe, Peter Devine in St Kilda, Extreme, I can't remember if Extreme were there, and I think Ground Zero may have been there with Rob Williams in the city. I can't remember, but there was literally only 3 or 4 clubs listed. Pete was the only one that had Gracie in front of his name, and it was in St Kilda, because I think if Extreme had been there, I could have ended up at Extreme at Chadstone, because it was a bit closer to where I was living. And I went up to St Kilda, and I don't know, Kim, you would have trained downstairs?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's on the 3rd level now. It used to be on the 2nd level. It was just this dirty, smelly sweatbox of a place. Like, the smell was just overpowering when you walk in. Scabby old mats, dudes just walking around and torn up gis, the old Krugen's gi with the old Motorhead and Iron Maiden logos all over them, one leg missing off them and that sort of thing. And I wasn't one of these guys that walked in and got mauled, which was fortunate, because I was still on the tools at the time, baller maker by trade still. I was quite strong and quite big. So but I got thrown in with Bob Watson, and we all probably have heard of Bob Watson. Kim, you'd know Bob Watson. And,
yeah, definitely.
Not
all our listeners will know him, though, if you wanted to enlighten some of us.
Bob was just a unit of a bloke. There was lots of stories about Bob. Very good guy. But
his son's still about now, Adam, His son's still around, Yeah,
he's still around. So I got thrown in training with Bob, and he just played around, and we had a bit of a roll, and I thought, oh, this is interesting. Came home covered in bruises, and sort of went back the next night and just sort of really enjoyed it from, don't know why. And eventually, you get the bigger guys come in and just crush her, and stuck with it and progressed through. It was pretty amazing times back then.
Was Dan Cherubin and Big Mick there at the time when you joined?
Yeah, I think Mick Wilson was still a white belt. Dan Cherubin would have been a blue. Dan didn't come up that often. I reckon I probably only rolled with him 3 or 4 times, if that. Mick and I trained a lot together, hell of a lot together. Peter Bean was actually over at the World Championships when they were still in Brazil. So I thought that was fantastic when I walked in. You know, the instructor's actually a guy that is out there competing at a high level. So I didn't actually meet Pete for probably the first 6 or 8 weeks. And, you know, when he came in, it was, you know, he had won a couple of fights, I think, when he was there. And, yeah, it was just, yeah, it was sort of like this guy walks in and he's the guru, he runs the club and he's in charge of this amazing sport. And, yeah, so it was really good to have him, because being an active competitor at the time as well gave us a lot of insight. And, you know, training with the world's best, obviously, Gracie Barr. So from a competition level, pretty fortunate to have him as a coach back then. So
that's a good point.
And he structured his classes, I imagine, similar to what Gracie Barr did in Brazil. So yeah, it was.
So you've got the US. Okay, I cut you off. Go on.
Sorry.
I was going.
Yeah, I'm not too sure if anyone else was running classes similar to that at the time. I know Machado's was probably a little bit different to us with the shoot fighting and that sort of thing. So yeah, it was. I felt, yeah, it was probably the best place to be at the time, which was good.
So you are not the only person who's ever said that the UFC kind of led them to jiu-jitsu.
We should keep a tally, Anton. It's got to be at least half.
I think we need a new category for the tally, Kim, where the UFC is next to the porn, and the person chose the UFC. Like, if you picked up the porn instead, you could have been a porn star for 20 years instead of a BJJ black belt by now, brother. But you were influenced.
There you go.
Brother. So that's an interesting thing to put parallel stuff here.
Yeah.
But you picked up the BJJ, and
I wasn't punished for my sins.
You know how, like, people say video games don't influence kids, for example. They say, no, you know, they can play the violent video games. I'm not even sure what I think about this. No, they can play the violent video games and it won't make them violent. But the amount of people that picked up a UFC video or DVD and then turned to a violent martial arts, they were obviously influenced by this thing. So how do we rationalize this, people? I'm interested to know.
Isn't it? Yeah, I would have honestly never thought of that. Yeah, I think you could be onto something there, but I still could have been a porn star. I won't make any bones about that. You know, there was probably a good 20 or so VHSs in there. I also could have been in a punk band. There was some old Minor Threat tapes in there and Exploited and that sort of thing too, which I gave a bit of a flogging. So
awesome, bro.
Yeah. You're a pretty serious surfer too. Yeah, you did some overseas trips to Mexico. Is that right?
Yeah, I wasn't. I've surfed my whole life pretty much. When we moved. Well, I lived in New Zealand sort of up until I was about 12 years old, and lived on a coastal town. So I surfed as a kid. We moved to Australia and literally moved out to Sunbury. So sure, you know where Sunbury is. There's no waves in Sunbury, so I stopped and no means of getting to the beach. And then as soon as I got my license again, I started surfing again. Even though I was listening to death metal and playing in death metal bands, I still always wanted to surf. So got back into it at about 18. But yeah, I've done quite a few trips, all through Indonesia and Mexico. Used to go down to Tasmania quite a bit and surf over there. Fiji, all the usual spots. But yeah, it's sort of, quite. It sort of goes hand in hand almost. I mean, you go to Brazil, and I think a lot of the guys that train all surf. And Hawaii is very much, obviously, a lot of the guys that surf train over there as well. So I was better at jiu-jitsu than I was at surfing. But yeah, it's don't get out in the water too much now. But they definitely did that for a very long time.
When you have been doing I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 15 years now. So I definitely see, I see people shoot past me and then drop away. Or I see people, go really even slower than me, but will probably outlast me. There's all of these different kind of levels of growth and body decomposition and body, like everybody's just on such a different journey. But for you, what's your journey been like? Has it been like a all great, or has it been a lot of frustration, or has it been up and down? Like, describe your journey a bit from that perspective.
Uh, yeah, I've certainly had my moments. For every people don't like to talk about it, but I think there's way more positives to doing jiu-jitsu. But I guess for someone like me, and when I sort of stepped away from competition, because I competed for 16 years, and I think my last adult fight was I was 40 or 41, and then I did a couple of masters matches as a black belt. I didn't compete as much as I probably should have as a black belt, but in 2016, and because I've done a lot of heavy trade work, being a boilermaker, I literally hit a wall at about 2016. Got quite a few injuries. I had to have, I've had 3 lots of surgery. And so at that point, I'd be lying if I said maybe I shouldn't have gone so hard, or, the old, I trained through it. Probably should have gone and had a rest and got the physio that's needed or surgeries that are needed. But now that all that's been done and a lot of it's fixed up, sort of back in a spot now where you can just I can go at my own pace now, which Bayside Jiu-Jitsu has been very good for, because it was obviously a new club, new students. There's a couple of blues and purple belts that sort of were in and out in the earlier days. Now there's brown belts that will keep me on my toes all day of the week. But it's just a better pace for anyone. I mean, I'm 48 now, so I think you really have to be mindful the older you get, and it's a tough pill to swallow, because people love, if you're especially being a black belt, they love to get hold of you and put some hurt on you if they can.
Yeah.
And I reckon I speak for everyone when I say that. As a black belt or a brown belt, you're always going to get some fit 24, 25-year-old blue, purple belt. They just want to take your head off.
Yeah.
And me being as stubborn as I am, I'll sit there and roll with those types of blokes where probably should just avoid them. But I definitely think the older you get, and I've seen it with guys older than me as well, they're really battling with arthritis and all sorts of osteo injuries and that sort of thing. So I think you do have to change your pace. If you want longevity in the sport, and you don't want to be pushed around in a wheelchair when you get into your 70s and 80s. So, but there's some genetic freaks who will never have that problem. But that's probably only 15% of the people in the sport. So,
so you reckon you've mellowed a bit as you've aged?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Well, I don't know. I might have got better technique-wise. Definitely lazier. But I think you have to. You sort of have to. Yeah.
Yeah. And tell us about the injuries. You said you've had 3 surgeries. What were they?
I've had both knees operated on. I've had my bicipital head torn off, so I've had that all reattached, and I've got a full decompression on my right shoulder as well. So it's actually 4 surgeries, but they did 2 in one hit. So yeah.
The knees, did they do both knees at the same time?
No, they did both. They did my bicep and my shoulder at the same time. So yeah, the knees were done. I actually hurt my knee in the US training over there on a surf trip with a Health Gracie black belt. I don't know who he was, but he had this huge scar down his face. Really gnarly dude, and I think I was a purple belt at the time, and I was just being not a smart ass, but I think I was starting to pass him. He goes, all right, and he sort of locked me down and tweaked my knee as I was sort of reaped my knee a bit as I was passing, and so that was the first serious injury I ever had. But anyway, like I said, should have got it operated on at the time, but you just tend to leave these things so you can keep training. So yeah, it'd been a few things, and probably some of it's from surfing, some of it was from work, but it all sort of came to head at one time. And the boys at Bayside probably just thought I was a massive whinger, always complaining about injuries, but I don't have too much to whinge about anymore, so I just got to get on with it and train.
And what does it look like? What does the landscape of training look like for you in the future? Like, is this just about preservation now? Because I actually feel like I'm 50, so I'm a couple of years older, but I feel like I can definitely feel my strength declining. I can feel my I can feel some things declining, but I also know that my skill is improving. But I think for me, I just have to find that place where I can just keep finding enjoyment in jiu-jitsu above all else.
100%.
I
Yeah.
think that's where I'm at. What about you?
Yeah, same. I think if I wasn't enjoying it and there weren't people there that I could go in and just have a piss and main to or have a good laugh with that are on the same, wavelength, I probably wouldn't do it, I don't think.
Mhm.
And that's like everything. There's no real point in doing it if you're not enjoying it. So, yeah, I think for now it's probably and I've always said this. It's actually I find it's actually a bit of stress relief. While someone's trying to choke you out or feel like your ribs are about to explode, you're actually relaxed because you're not thinking of anything else.
So true.
So I think that 2 hours a night where you can go in and have someone just try and destroy you, or you put some hurt on someone else, that's all you're thinking about. So I think it's probably important to have something like that in your life, whether it's fishing, surfing, jiu-jitsu, not necessarily in that order. I think,
I think it's the recovery, Paul, wouldn't you say, as you get older? Like, I don't know about you, but even like 5 or 6 years ago, I could still train twice a day, pretty hard. But now, like, I'm about your age, like, I can't train like that. Sometimes I can't even train hard 2 days in a row. Like, it's too much for my body.
I'm lucky to do 1 day a week, Kim, to be fair. And I actually find that's not too bad. Like, I think like Anton said, your skill level gets better. Your physicality doesn't. I'm probably lucky. I'm still reasonably strong. I don't feel I've lost too much strength, but certainly the stamina is not what it used to be. But I think recovery is very important. But you know what Pete's was like in the early days. It was 3 or 4 days a week and then 2 days in the gym. And I remember you were very fit at that time too. You were doing a lot of work in the gym and training, and as well as jiu-jitsu.
It didn't mean much though in that room because I was still a bottom feeder to everyone else. It was like a room full of brown and black belts. Like, imagine that. Like, what do? You got nothing. You can't.
So then you went to absolute instead. Isn't that worse?
Yeah, true.
I love actually when one thing, Kim, when I'm rolling with the girls at Absolute, they talk about you. They talk about you. They talk about April. It's like, Kim's got this nasty this, or April's got this nasty that, but you are known as a nasty one in the gym, Kim. So
good. All right. So the years at Devine helped to shape me into the grappler I am now. Thank you.
That's right.
Yeah.
So Paul, go on.
So I was just going to say, look, I tilt my hat to any of those girls from those early days. I think Lan Tar was there for a little while. There was another little girl we had called Valerie, Sunny. I mean, just even being there, I mean, we were all meatheads and didn't care too much about what we said around people. And if you're easily offended, it wasn't the place for you. So anyone that
it was quite a boys' club,
it was. And for anyone that could put up with that, I'll tilt. Well done.
Thank you.
Because and even today, there's really not any club. I don't know what Absolute's like, but there's still not a big representation of women in the sport. So
always, it's always
going to be at all levels. It must be so hard.
No,
100%.
And actually, our coach is unapologetically misogynistic. Like Kamal, he's just like sexist, racist. He just doesn't care. He's like out of the open. He's funny though. He's good. He brings a sense of humor to it, but. Yeah, it's like the world is not fully
transformed. It's still way better because, like, at Devine, Paul, I didn't even have a change room. Like, there was a female change room, but the blokes used it. Like, I was changing in a broom closet because it was just me and one other girl.
Yeah, well, the blokes never really even used the change room much, did we? It was kind of
But
walk out of the shower, scratching our balls and a towel wrapped around us and someone would rip it off you and not
for the easily offended, that's for sure.
No,
the world really changed. Like if you just watch a 90s movie, you can tell how far we've come. Like the way that we would slap women on the butts or whatever, just like in a movie, and that was acceptable. And then women would go and watch it. Like the world is evolving slowly, but we're getting there, guys. And actually, jiu-jitsu is a great place for it because we have to coexist in a very tight space together. And I think that's like it's a pressure cooker for this stuff. It brings out the solutions, and that's one of the things I love about our community is like we can't be, we can't have ulterior motives in this space, for very long. We've got to be genuine, authentic, got to grow together, work out our problems. I love that shit.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, you're a Jiu Jitsu club's a representation of all sexes, races, religions, all in one room. So
yeah,
I think the smart people that want to make it work. Oh, look, I mean, you're never going to please everyone.
no,
but I think if you can just maintain respect and stick to a set of rules, then I think you're way ahead. Things can get out of hand pretty quickly. With a big bunch of people in the room with sort of no leader or no structure in place. So I think it's probably evolved to where it should be.
I agree.
And how do you see what changes have you seen in jiu-jitsu since you started? Because you've been in the game more than 20 years. Like, how's it changed? How's it evolved?
Look, I think obviously a huge. There's a lot of guys that'll come in and they'll bring their phone in and they would have watched the latest Gordon Ryan clip or Craig Jones clip or Mika Galvao and the guys have been training 6 months and they're trying to do these rolling back takes and things like that. And it's just and I'm a stickler for the old school stuff. It's kind of like learn the fundamentals. Don't worry about that stuff for now. It'll come. And also probably the rise of no-gi with all the professional events. And I didn't suck at no-gi, but I never really liked it. I liked the gi because you could slow it down a lot. And sort of the best guys at the time that I liked a lot were guys that trained a lot and competed a lot in the gi. So, to me, it's always been about gi. So, and it's sort of like the short game of jiu-jitsu. The advent of the professional events has been a big one as well, where, and I might cop a bit of flack for this, but you get these guys that they train for 2 or 3 professional fights a year or competitions a year, but they've never proven themselves against the world's best who compete at 10 competitions and go and win a world championship. So I kind of you can go for there's no question Gordon Ryan's one of the better guys in the world, but there's a lot of guys that sort of put themselves up there and and think like him and train like him and want to be like him. It's like you kind of got to go out and prove it first. Don't just sort of rest on your laurels and hope that you're going to get a reputation by going in the odd no-gi comp once or twice a year or the odd. Yes, I still think the IBJJF worlds, if you want to make a go at it, you've probably got to go and medal at something like that rather than just be a no-gi legend in your own country, your own state. To me, it seems a little bit false. There's a bit of a false sense of where the level's at in Australia. So you see a lot of that, and there's no problem with that. And I might be the grumpy person that brings this those types of people down. But you got to go and have a reality check and go and train in the States or go and train in Brazil and really see where the level's at. So
you're saying that these people, they're not competing enough? Is that what you're saying? Like to actually get a real measurement of who they are?
They're making. I personally believe they're making a reputation based on. A reputation based on reputation. You know what I mean?
Like their social media
numbers aren't there,
for example, or their
or
video,
social. They've got this social media representation, and that's been a big one. I think you can. Look, I can't blame anyone for doing it. If you can make a bit of sponsorship on the side or a bit of money on the side, go out and do it. And you can't blame anyone for that. But if your plan is to win a couple of medals and then have an Instagram page or a pro athlete page, and then hopefully make a living from jiu-jitsu, I think that's a long way from reality. And that's only the guys that do that. There's only a certain handful of them. So. Kind of feel that probably need to be students should be encouraged to leave Australia and go and train overseas with the world's best for a period of time, and then then you can see where you need to be at. So I think social media has made it a lot smaller than it, sort of a lot bigger sport than it actually is, if that makes any sense.
It does.
I'm probably just waffling on now, but yeah, I think with the
agree.
yeah, I'm not
But
sure I'm
that's,
getting
I
a
mean,
message.
there's pros to that as well there, yeah, because like you can meet your idol or you can communicate or converse with your idol through social media. Like I could
Yep.
send a message to Be a Mosquito and she could
Yes.
respond to me, you know. I don't know how much that happens in other sports.
True.
Yeah, 100%.
Craig Jones doesn't respond to us no matter how many
No,
times.
he doesn't.
No.
Yeah, we know that.
And we
We've
he's
given
part
up
of
on
our
Craig
club, for
Jones.
God's sake. So,
Yeah. See, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, and he's an unbelievable grappler, but to me, it's sort of, and he's sort of beaten some of the best, but he ever going to be the best is what I'm saying. Unless you go and win a world title, that's because I'm just a gay guy that's always sort of that's been the highest pinnacle for me. So
He did.
not trying to start fights or challenge anyone, but it's just the way I see it. Go out, win ADCC. Sorry.
He won worlds as a purple belt in Craig.
Yeah.
So he has won a world.
Well, that opens up a whole other discussion. Is purple worlds as good or anywhere near as good as black belt worlds, for example? Like, do we count? Like, where do we rate that on the scale?
Oh, well, look, I would have thought if you win worlds as a purple, you're well on your way to winning worlds as a black belt for sure. But you can't blame someone for taking another path and taking sponsorships and 10 grand in the pocket to win one fight. I mean, so I can understand why people drift away from it. That's what guys like Craig and Gordon have made that decision at an early age, which is 100%. Why wouldn't you? I'm just sort of looking at it from an actual, in terms of accolades and on paper. I'm a stickler for. It's not the age-old argument, was Mike Tyson the greatest ever? Well, no, he actually wasn't, in my opinion, because on paper there's better guys than him. So, that's what I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to start anything with any of these guys.
No, you're talking about the
floor with me.
Entertainment versus skill level factor of the industry, right?
I think so, yeah. So, well, there's a living to be made out of either one of those, I guess. So,
I also hear what you're saying, Paul, but I also think there's good things that have come out of it because their social media, whatever you want to call it, like back and forth thing, has put jiu-jitsu in the spotlight. Like now it's on the UFC now, which it wasn't a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, and like I guess probably don't misinterpret me. I mean, I've said my piece there, but I know. If I had half that ability, I would be doing the same thing. I mean, why would you break your balls, for 8 months of the year to win 3 comps that you're not getting paid for?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's about longevity and there's money to be, and that's one of the biggest changes that I've seen. But because I haven't really been a part of it and come from that generation before, where you just sort of, you did the work and hopefully won a medal. And outside, there was no social media. So, you got your pat on the back and that was it. But, if you can generate this huge following, I mean, there's, people have proven time and time again, you don't necessarily have to be talented to have a lot of followers and sponsors on social media. So, why not?
It's a great discussion. Unfortunately, we've got 1 minute 34 seconds left. So, Kim, time for you to bring this show home, my friend.
Thank you so much, Paul, for giving up your time. It's been great to catch up again. It's been probably 5 years or more since I've even seen you, let alone RoD. So, this was great. Thank you once again.
Appreciate you having me on. Thank you very much.
Speaking of social media, we'll have this out on social media in a couple of weeks. So, if you could share it, we would love.
I apologise if I've upset anyone with the last 5 minutes.
No, not at all. No, we need the controversialness, brother.
We want
it's
great. You're good. You're good.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again, and we'll see you on the next.
See you guys. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.